feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Dane Moore NBA podcast. We're brought to you by PrizePicks. Coming up Friday night, it's February 13th, and this episode is going to be our live show at Falling Knife Brewing Company. I'm recording this little minute-long open here in the studio prior to heading over to Falling Knife, so I'm not sure exactly what we all get into in this episode, but I can tell you that Britt Robson joins me in this episode, and that you can also expect a lot of live listener questions from the audience at Falling Knife. We try to do those at these live shows. They're always a blast. The questions are great, and I'm looking forward to tonight. I'm sure it's going to be a fun time. Before we get started, just a little preview of next week. It is the All-Star break. I did want to let you know that we will also be taking off the beginning of next week for the All-Star break. After this episode, the next episode will not be coming out until Thursday morning, which is the day before the Wolves get back to action Friday at home against Dallas. But yeah, looking forward to this episode. Let's do it. Live show at Falling Knife with Britt Robson and live listener questions coming up next. Let's go. All right, this is the Dane Moore NBA podcast coming to you live here from Falling Knife Brewing Company. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you all for coming out. I'm joined by Britt Robson. You can cheer for him too. We're gonna do a podcast. It's the All-Star break, Britt. The Wolves are 34-22, which means they are on pace to go 50-32. Last season, they were 49-33. They're fifth in offense right now, sixth in defense. Only one of three teams who are top six on each side of the ball. But it's eerily kind of similar, like 50 on pace to go 50-32, 49-33. Offensively and defensively, they're pretty similar last season. What do you make of that at this juncture of the season?
Well, I think the numbers are good, obviously, and that when their ceiling is really, really high and their floor is inexcusably low. But I think that being that 50-win pace is a decent position to be in. If you treat it like a horse race, you're a little over halfway, 2/3 pole. And the
any race,
stretch,
horses, dogs, feet.
Closing stretch is going to be crucial. They don't have the easiness of the schedule they had last year, where they finished 18-8 after the All-Star break. They were 17-10 2 years ago. So I think 16-10 will get them to 50 wins. But again, anybody who watches this team knows that when they want to play, they play extremely well. They're 4-2 against Oklahoma City and San Antonio, arguably the two best teams of the West. At the same time, they are capable of, losing in a manner that almost demonstrates that they don't care. That's happened a half a dozen times this season. And that's really aggravating, given that at the beginning of the season, they said with their whole chest that they were going to be a much more mature and comprehensively cohesive, focused team. And they've gone out of their way to rebut that on many occasions. So I think the key after the All-Star break, quite frankly, is how often they want to keep at a high level. I think it is up to them. I think in particular, Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle, the two best scorers on the team, take way too many plays off on defense. I don't think that's a secret or a scandal. I think it's just the way it is. And it's something that if they start to play better, get more focused, and they've got, I think the Ayo trade was a very good trade. I think it was something that they needed. The bench has helped. But at the end of the day, if this team can be focused, they can be a factor in the West, in the playoffs. OKC and San Antonio have both proven that they're human after going 24-1. OKC is barely over 500. The Spurs are very young. Denver looks good in many ways, but in some respects, I think this team still matches up really well with Denver. A lot of it is out there on the table for this team, but all it takes is 2 or 3 bad games at the right time, bad seeding, or a bad game or two at a very crucial point during the postseason. And I frankly am not yet convinced that this team can live up to its potential yet.
We are going to take a lot of questions. We have a third microphone here. So the two of us are going to talk for a second, but then we would like this to be very interactive here today. And so you guys can kind of guide our adventure of what it is that we're going to be talking about. But I thought we'd hit on the main things of where they're at right now. We can talk a little Ayo and some other things there. But when I was going through this today and I'm looking at the fact that they are trending towards being the same team that they were a season ago, I think initially you read that as bad news, right? Because that team last year had to go through the whole integration of a new roster that came to be right before the season started, right? We know all the reasons right there. So part of you goes like, wait, why continuity? Like, why aren't you a better team right now? Why are you not trending towards being a top seed in the Western Conference? Why does it look like you're going to be the 6th seed again? But I think the other side to take from last season is that group did figure it out. And you rattled off whatever the record was. It was really good with 26 games left. I know at one point they went 17-4 down the stretch of last season. So I take that to be maybe an indicator that this team can kind of, if they are a flip the switch type group, they flipped the switch at this time a season ago. So they have more wins than they did at this time before. If they are able to go, 19-7 or something like that, we are talking about a mid-50s win team. So I think it can both be a little disappointing to be at this record at this juncture and looking at the 6th seed again. But the season isn't over, and I think it's like a game and a half away from the 3 seed and a game and a half away from the 7th seed. There's room still to move here if they are locked in to move up. And if I had to bet one way or the other, I think I would bet on them being more locked in and seeing sort of the end line there and being like, all right, let's sprint. Let's go the rest of the way here.
Well, I can give a very credible half glass full take on this team. They lost not only Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but essentially Mike Conley this season. They did not expect that going in. That's 2 key pieces of their backcourt from last season that are just gone. The anticipated youth, the trio that Finch called the youth core at the beginning of the season, Rob Dillingham, Terrence Shannon, and Jalen Clark, have all kind of crapped out. So you have 5 players I just talked about that are either gone or who have disappointed. And yet they still are in a really good shape. They just got reinforcements in terms of Dosunmu, Anthony Edwards, as much as
Dosunmu? We got to work on that one. Dosunmu. Yeah. Ayo. Everybody, we need to do this. I'm getting way too many Ayos. Ayo Dosunmu. We can do this.
Dosunmu.
Well, okay. Lansdale.
So that's right. Exactly. So anyway, the point being, not so much pronunciation, but performance. The Anthony Edwards has been phenomenal in the clutch this season. It was a big problem last year. Rudy Gobert, I think, has had a very, very good year in terms of his defense. I think it slipped a little bit last year. I think generally speaking this year, it's been much closer to his Defensive Player of the Year performance of 2 years ago. I think that Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid are having career seasons at a time when they still are approaching their prime. So I do think there's a lot of reasons why you could look at this team, and you've seen it with your own eyes. You've seen this team play very, very high-level basketball in beating good teams this year. When they are engaged, they are one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NBA. And that's quite a statement to make, I think.
Sure.
And so their glass can be half full. Again, it is up to them. Do they want to try to hit that ceiling more often, or do they want to explore the floor?
And do you get what I'm saying of like this last quarter of the season? I think the floor exploration is less likely to be
You would hope so.
into. Yeah,
I mean, you would hope so.
Mhm.
I frankly was a little bit rocked by the back-to-back losses to the Pelicans and the Clippers, and the fact that Finch called out Rudy Gobert for very appropriately calling out his teammates. I'm a Chris Finch stan, as almost anybody who listens to me knows. And I think that that was a moment of weakness that made me kind of worry about this team. Quite frankly, if Finch is getting defensive, that's not a good sign.
Yeah, they've lost some benefit of the doubt for me personally, right? Like I agree with you, top team in the league when they're locked in. I say it all the time. I wouldn't want to play the Timberwolves in the playoffs if I was Houston or LA or even San Antonio. But I think they've lost the benefit of the doubt for me to even see like these last 2 games were really good. I'm not going to just be like, oh yeah, forget about the previous 10 games of that.
Right.
They're just like permanently gotta see it to believe it. And I don't know how long I need to see it for, but before I believe that there's not the possibility of the floor kind of dropping.
Exactly. I mean, you really need to see some consistency. We saw a 5-game winning streak shortly after Christmas that everybody talked about. It was their best brand of basketball, I think, of the season thus far. I think they found transition basketball even before they got Ayo. So that has been a real positive for the offense because it enables you to not be stuck in a double ISO offense with Julius and Ant all the time. You get Jaden and Nas and other people more involved. Even Rudy runs the floor, gets rewarded more in transition than he does in half court. So there definitely are ways. Again, this team will be as good as it wants to be. They've lost the benefit of the doubt. I agree with you there. They are more likely than not to finish strong. That's been a tradition under Chris Finch. Every year he's been the coach. They've finished stronger than they began the season. So it's right to be optimistic. It is also right to be wary.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you there. I mean, it's just it's literally at the point of like just got to see it over and over again, and I don't necessarily believe it's not going to work. It's hard to just also wholeheartly be like, here we go. They're going to try, and it's going to be great the rest of the way. The motivation is there, and Ayo is here, and I think we're all in agreement. Like, oh, all right, this fills a hole. Like this is a great addition. This adds pace to it. He can shoot. It's going to be a little bit of the Phil the Mike Conley, the Nikhil role. I said kind of some of the Kyle Anderson role there too. I think he's filling in the void that the departure of all 3 of those guys has left on this team. But I was thinking with Ayo, like, is there anything for us to be skeptical about? Because I feel like it's all been 100%, like this is great. This is going to be perfect. Is there anything that gives you pause with Ayo, or are we just confident that he's going to be able to fit himself into this role that is 25 to 30 minutes a night available for him, and he's going to deliver? Do you get what I'm saying there? Like,
yeah, I do. He's being used now as a Swiss Army knife type idea, and we don't know yet. I mean, that's the thing. He doesn't know yet. He's played for a Bulls team that is thankful to make it through the play-in, which has only happened once in his time there. He's not experienced in big-time basketball. He's moved out of the place where he went to college, grew up. It was his, place. Right now, he's playing on the adrenaline and the excitement of joining a new team. He's being flourishing at a lot of things that they're thrown at him. I will add that he was minus 33 in his first game against the Clippers, which was, when I saw the game, I did not think it was his fault. He just happened to be in there. But it obviously he did not help. If you're minus 33 when your team's on the floor, that's not a good thing.
It's kind of like Rob Dillingham's good stats in Chicago. You're like, whoa, 16-6.
Right.
Then if you actually watch the game, you go, oh, it's 91-62 in that when he started scoring. Yeah, that's not real.
Right. But I guess what I will say is he's a blank slate that we want to fill in, puppies and rainbows. And to some extent that's happened. But he is a very capable player at a lot of things. He's not sterling at everything, and we haven't found out yet where he doesn't mesh with his team.
Yeah, and I do wonder if he has the type of game that doesn't really break and kind of crater in that sort of way, because he's not an elite offensive player, obviously, right? He's not an elite defensive player, but he's clearly above average on both sides of the floor. So there's a little bit of just like stability to that I think does prevent the concern that, oh, he's going to have like some sort of terrible 2 weeks. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't know what like 5 straight bad Ayo Dosunmu games look like. And I wonder if, given his style of play, if that's even really possible.
Well, I think what will happen is what happens to people like Nas and Jaden and other role players. They just don't sink in the course of the game. It may not be their fault, or it may be that they just don't have it that night. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can expect that you're going to get Nickeil Alexander-Walker production out of Ayo for the rest of the season. I think he's a poor man's Nah, and that's a compliment, quite frankly. But I also don't think, I mean, you don't get a player for Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller in 2 seconds who is going to be a fantastic player. You're going to get a solid player. He is a solid player. He fills a need. And I think what's really important here is that he has Finch's confidence. Finch likes him. Tim Connolly obviously likes him. It's a nice thing when Chris Finch likes you when you're a bench player, because that means you'll get regular minutes and you don't have to worry about that. That's off your plate. And I think that he's also, I mean, when we talked to him at the mic, his introductory stuff, he's a fantastic guy.
I have one more Ayo question for you, but we will start taking questions here. There's a third microphone right here, so you can just line up, come grab it, and please do. What have you? I know this is all very new, and he's only been here on the team for 3 games. But assuming he does re-sign, like, has your mind gone to the like 3 to 5 year Ayo Dosunmu plan of like what this, if he's on the team for the next 3 to 5 years, what do you think that looks like, and how does that continue to give value? I guess
I'll be honest with you, I think it's still too early for me. I can tell you that when I watched him, I saw him quite a bit for whatever reason, just on League Pass. I leaned into his games more like 2 or 3 years ago. I was watching more Bulls for whatever reason, but I was always impressed with his defense, and the metrics on some of the defensive metrics are not kind to him. All I know is he digs in. He's a good on-ball defender. He's a conscientious off-ball defender. I know his three-point shooting has come out of nowhere this year. He was over 40% one year. Now he's 45%. I mean, just ridiculous numbers. He's always, I guess he's always been somebody who gets to the rim and plays with a high pace, but I hadn't noticed that as much. I'm very encouraged by that. I think it could lead the way if now that I've talked myself into thinking about it, I would say that I like him in the timeline of Jaden, Nas, and Ant, because it's a high-pace timeline. It's a timeline that wants to play at 102, 101, rather than 96, 97, what you got with Rudy and Mike Conley. So I think it's a good thing long-term.
The thing that stood out, I think, in Finch's comments, or the thing he said most about Ayo is, I can play him in any lineup. I can play him with anybody. And he feels confident in that. And that passes the sniff test to me, that he can do that. And to the long-term vision piece of it, that makes me believe in that. Like, I don't know what this roster is going to look like in a year. Like Kyle and I were talking about in the last episode of, if Johan Berenger is going to play next season, I doubt that all 3 of Julius Randle, Naz Reid, and Rudy Gobert are going to be on the team again. You know, that's just how the NBA works. How different was the team 2 seasons ago? How different was the team 4 seasons ago? Like, roster churn does happen. So if Ayo is on the team 5 years from now, yeah, like Anthony Edwards will still be here on the team. Jaden probably, Nas probably, but there's going to be all this other movement around them that happens, and players they draft, and players grow or players fall off. And it's why I'm bought into the Ayo like future piece of it, because I think he could fit in a lot of iterations of however the future moves going forward.
And he could actually, another way this team could change is if they have a pratfall and they do trade Jaden and Nas and go for Giannis. That's another possibility. And if that happens, getting Ayo on board at about $8 to $10 million a year is probably a good thing.
I think it's going to be twice that.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I think it's going to be 16 to 20. We will take some questions here. Let's start off right over here. Today's show is brought to you by Factor. And when I'm busy and when it's cold outside like now, grocery shopping and finding time to cook is tough. And that's why in our household, we do Factor every winter, because Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs. So I eat well without the planning or the cooking. These are quality functional ingredients, including lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, no refined seed oils. And there's a bunch of variety. Over 100 rotating weekly meals to keep things fresh and delicious throughout the winter. Options include high protein, calorie smart, Mediterranean diet, GLP-1 support, and ready-to-eat salads. All Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, ready in about 2 minutes with no prep and no stress. I use Factor, and I really think you should try it out too. Head to factormeals.com/DaneMoore50 off and use code DaneMoore50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. 1 free breakfast item per box for 1 year while the subscription is active. Today's show is also brought to you by PrizePicks. And for today's PrizePicks break, let's take a look at where the odds are set on the end of season awards relevant to the Wolves. Naz Reid is now the odds-on favorite to win Sixth Man of the Year. He has the best odds of any player. If you go over to PrizePicks on the teams tab, it's currently wager $10 on him to win $24 on Naz winning Sixth Man of the Year, but he is the current favorite. Rudy Gobert is currently having the third best odds to win Defensive Player of the Year. He's behind both Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. Third, but the odds are kind of long. A $10 wager on Rudy at the moment would pay out $143 if he won. And then Ant is the odds-on favorite to win Clutch Player of the Year. About even money on that. A $10 wager would win 19. Again, these odds can be found on the teams tab over at PrizePicks, a new addition through PrizePicks that allows you to do a lot more than you used to be able to do in Minnesota, including picks against the spread. You know, there's always something going on over at PrizePicks, and now a lot more you can do with those futures and point spreads on the teams tab. If you don't yet have a PrizePicks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code Dane when you sign up to receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's PrizePicks.com or the PrizePicks app using promo code Dane.
Hello.
First, I just want to say thanks for being here. Thanks for all that you guys do. I think it's safe to say it's been a tough 2026 for Minneapolis. You guys have been a really nice welcome distraction, and the Wolves are too. So thanks for all the work that you guys do.
You for saying that.
Really appreciate you guys. Thank you. I have a few questions, but I'm not going to ask them all. I was just asking my group over there which one I should go for. I kind of hate asking this question, but we all know how the NBA works. If we make it to the conference finals or even the finals, and we don't win, do you see us getting rid of Chris Finch in the offseason? And again, I don't really want to ask that question, but we've had recently a lot of conversation in the Reddits about Chris Finch, and it wouldn't be fair necessarily to blame it all on him. But again, it's the way the NBA works. Do you guys think that that's something that is realistic? Do you guys think that, like, obviously ownership really likes Chris, front office really likes Chris? What do you guys think? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
You asked that much nicer than the internet does, so I appreciate
I try to be a nice guy.
Do you want to take that up first?
Sure, I'll take it.
I mean, I'll go too.
A lot of people don't like Chris Finch on the internet, and I love the discussions because there's always somebody who wants to over-trump somebody else by saying, yeah, I haven't liked him since the Memphis playoff series where he didn't call enough timeouts and they blew a bunch of games. Yeah, and since then they've gone to 2 Western Conference finals. I mean, all these cell phones about Chris Finch. Right now, this team is top 8 in offense and defense that has the 6th best net rating in the NBA. They are in a position to make noise. I think they would be the favorite to at very least get past the first round, if not the second round. We just got through with a whole bunch of sturm and drang about Chris Finch. And I just got through saying it made me a little nervous how defensive he was about Rudy's comments. You know what the Wolves are in the last 10 games? They're 7-3. You know how many Western Conference teams are better than that in that last 10 games? 1. San Antonio's 8-2. So they have the 2nd best record in the Western Conference over the last 10 games. And we're talking about firing our coach. Come on.
There we go. Clappy clap. To the specific of the question, you said going to the Western Conference Finals or even the finals and not winning the championship. I mean, if that's the bar, if they go to the Western Conference Finals again and lose, I mean, personally, I'd be pretty shocked to make a coaching change. I will say to like pull out of the specifics of Finch and just like in general around the league, like coaching changes do happen. And they're often a product of persistent issues duplicating themselves year over year. And we would be inaccurate to brush over that fact. There are issues that this team have had that have been persistent year over year and specifically related to energy and effort and the things that we've been talking about during this most recent 10-game stretch that did have energy and effort issues, but they did win 7 of those 10 games. So I wouldn't be like floored if those issues continue to present themselves for the rest of the season or a year or two. Like, I don't know. It just wouldn't shock me, as it wouldn't shock me if almost any coach in the league, like outside of Eric Spoelstra, wasn't the coach of Miami in 3 years or something like that. You're renting the whistle, right? That's what they say with NBA coaches. I think it's a constantly prove yourself type of league. And if you get a tough first round matchup and if you lose that, like I would imagine those are certainly going to be conversations within the fan base and not ridiculous conversations to have given the context that does happen around the league. It would, in my opinion, it would really require intense analysis of the thing that Rudy brought up. The chicken or the egg of is it on the players for not bringing the top players for not bringing consistent energy and effort, or is it on the coach to implore the players to bring consistent energy and effort? And I think there's fair arguments to be made both ways there, and I think it's probably a little bit of both. Are there things in Chris's coaching style that maybe don't bring that out the best compared to the drill sergeant type of coaches? Sure. But I think those drill sergeant type of coaches would struggle to relate with Ant. I think they would struggle to relate with some of the other players. And that would have cascading impacts in a different way. So my hope in any sort of situation would be a sober analysis of the situation. And it's why I think anything on it is premature right now. Like, it'd be, I don't know, right? I think even the most frustrated people with Chris Finch, can't we agree that it would be a little premature to do like today during the All-Star break, right? Like, let's at least gather more information. There's a whole rest of the season to get here. Let's see what the last 26 games are. Let's see how permanent these patterns are, and let's see where they go in the playoffs. Yeah, in my opinion, Britt, I think it would be ridiculous to completely rule it off the table, because those are conversations that happen around the league, and teams have made changes that have benefited have made coaching changes that have benefited the team in the long run. So I think it's premature, but not ridiculous.
I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm saying it's asinine if it does.
Sure.
And what I will say is there is a pathway by which Chris Finch gets in trouble. And it is that they do go belly up. And a lot of it has to do with Julius Randle. Julius Randle is his guy. He has made him an incredibly integral part of this team. Julius is number one in assists, second in scoring, second in rebounds. But he's got his issues. He's had his issues wherever he's gone. And he's been put in a position of primacy that may work now, but he is also, in my opinion, holding back what Jaden and Nas might be able to do if they were more integral part of the team alongside Ant. I actually look forward to the days when that second timeline reigns supreme. And as much as I like Rudy Gobert and as much as I respect Julius Randle, I look forward to a team that gets out and runs and has great athleticism and has guys. You understand right now, if all the contracts are honored and nobody gets traded, that Nas, Jaden McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards will spend 9 years together with the same team. 3 very, very good players. That is continuity that is built in. And right now, Julius Randle, in some respects, just due to the way he plays, is in the way of that. And the reason he's in the way of that is because of Chris Finch.
And in some ways provides stability when Jaden and Nas have volatility too. You know,
Sure.
I'm with you too. I'd be eager to see that as well.
No. And that we can explain that with 4 or 5 a year age differences.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, let's take another question. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller. But no, interested in your thoughts and short of like the injuries, missed games argument for Luka and Shea, like what would Ant need to do, or like what would this team need to do over the last 25 games for Ant to like legitimately win MVP?
Well, I mean, I think it would have to start with Shea and Jokic not meeting their the 65 game threshold there. I don't know. Then the Wolves got to go like 24-2 the rest of the way. Like if they, I mean, I think so to win MVP, because 56 games of the season are gone. It's far and away Ant's best offensive season of his career, but I think it's pretty clearly his worst defensive season since his rookie year. And so I wonder if the scope of his work this season is of MVP caliber, but I don't know. That's all like fungible now because we don't actually know who's all going to be eligible to be on the ballot. Because if Shea comes back and rolls his ankle or something like that, or if what does Jokic have like 1 game more that he can miss? It'd be interesting. I would need to think about that a little bit more. Like, does Ant currently have more of an MVP candidacy than Cade Cunningham? You know, I kind of. Yeah. I think that would be something, but they're the 1 seed in the East there. I am Britt. I'm curious to see like the drive that Ant brings for the final 25 games of the season, because I could see him performing at an MVP level for this home stretch, kind of acknowledging where the standings are, acknowledging that it's 26 games, but he probably can sprint through the line of 26 games in a way, you know, he's not able to do for 82 games, or as nobody really is.
I think he needs fewer Sports Center-like games and more games like the fourth quarter against Toronto.
Yeah, that was great.
Where he basically gets 3 steals and plays hellacious defense and hits key shots. And the team goes on that kind of 17-4 run they went on last year, gets one of the top 2 or 3 seeds, and people see he's one of the top 3 or 4 in the league in scoring, and the people above him, with the exception of Luka, who I think, you know, he can't, even as bad as Ant has played defense this year, he's better than Luka.
For sure.
But the point is that Ant has a lot to prove at an end of the court where, I mean, Ty Lue was his coach for the World Basketball Championships and said that he saw Ant in practice. He was the best on-ball defender he's ever seen. Well, Ty Lue coached Kawhi and coached LeBron. When Anthony Edwards wants to play defense, we've all seen it. There are very, very few better. The fact that we don't see it enough is an indictment. You don't vote for an MVP that doesn't give you enough of what they have on a consistent basis. I mean, Jokic does that. SGA does that. Ant's defense is a sine wave. Ant will be in the MVP conversation when his defense is a straight, solid line that's high. And I don't think that can happen this year, but I think if he plays really well this year and the Wolves do really well, I think it'll be, people want to give it to him. He's already got a charisma factor that is greater than, other players of kind of similar value. So I think it's there. It just isn't there because he's not. Chris Finch says it all the time. If you want to be one of the top 5 players in the league, you're going to do it as a two-way player. He says that over and over again. And that's his way of trying to instill accountability in Ant.
And acknowledging that he's currently not that.
Yeah, obviously.
That's what Finch is saying.
Right.
I mean, I think at a functional level, it's about the voters believing that Ant is a consistent defender. And there's about 100 voters for these awards. And I would think probably 40 of them think Ant is an elite defender.
Right.
But I do think there's like half of the voting populace for these awards that knows now, that has watched enough Anthony Edwards to know that the defense is not consistent enough for him to be at an MVP level. Ant will win an MVP when that is the consensus opinion that he is a two-way player and a well above average defender. And when the voters who do watch games closely stop seeing the stuff that we see because we watch all 82 games. But at the same time, and I don't want to brush over like the offensive candidacy for him of this is definitely the best offense he's played. This is definitely the best he's been in the clutch. I do think these awards, especially when you're talking about going up against Gilgeous-Alexander and Jokic, you need to do something to convince these voters that Ant is a far superior defender to Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I think the reality of this situation right now is his production does not suggest that he's that caliber of player. His potential, that caliber of defender, but his potential suggests he's that caliber.
Yeah, right now, Jokic is the best player in the NBA, in my opinion, has been for the past 5 years. I think Wemby is coming up strong. I think that there will be a time when if Ant wants to win something of that magnitude, his team has to win at a very, very high level, higher than it has already. And he is going to have to take it another level because the level he's at right now is not as good as Jokic, is not as good as SGA. And in my opinion, it won't be as good as what Wemby's going to do in another couple of years.
Thank you for the question. We'll take another one. Today's show is brought to you by Mando, and I've switched it up. I am now using Mando's deodorant. I've been using the solid deodorant stick from Mando that is formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts. I wasn't sure where the difference would really be in changing deodorant, but I've really actually noticed a difference in that this one doesn't wear off like other deodorants I've used in the past do. Mando is also designed to be a full body deodorant, so you can put it anywhere, even on your feet, maybe get a second stick for that one. But really, it's not just our armpits that need to be deodorized. If you do want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula right now, you can find them in Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. And for the best deals, you can go to shopmando.com. Some men mask their BO with sense. Mando men get the job done right. Don't mask it, Mando it. Available in retailers near you, or head to shopmando.com because for a limited time, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. Use code DaneMoore at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. Again, that's code DaneMoore at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide and free shipping. shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Today's show is also brought to you by Thrive Market. And when we're ordering groceries, we are using Thrive Market membership to get groceries delivered straight to our home. And I love it because it only costs $5 a month. Thrive Market is a membership-based grocery service where you can shop from wherever you are, simply by hopping on their app, and the membership breaks down to just $5 a month, giving members access to weekly sales, personalized shopping, and peace of mind knowing there's no junk in any of the products they carry. Instead of paying fees on every grocery delivery order, you pay once for the year and benefit from it every time you shop. And there's no trade-off for good tasting food. The membership gives me access to brands and flavors I've never seen in my local store, but I've discovered a lot of things I like that I hadn't tried before. There's peace of mind in the shopping. You're paying a small monthly fee to offload the stress, research, and decision fatigue of eating healthy, and you can try it risk-free. I pay $5 a month, so I don't have to think about sketchy ingredients every time I shop. And there's no hidden fees. I can spend way more on delivery fees or just pay $5 a month for a Thrive Market membership. I'm using this. I think you should try it out too. If you're ready to make some healthy swaps and become a member, join Thrive Market with my link, thrivemarket.com/DaneMoore for 30% off your first order plus a free $60 gift.
Once again, thanks for coming out. This is always awesome. I always have a good time at these things. So really appreciate you doing that, and have really appreciate Falling Knife for building this. So
Absolutely.
kudos. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's zoom out a little bit, right? Like I want to hear some of your thoughts on the general NBA landscape. What are some of the things that have surprised you the most this year that you've seen coming into the All-Star break? You know, what teams are maybe looking to fire their coach that you weren't expecting, or what teams are maybe looking to extend their coach or extend some players they weren't expecting, that kind of stuff.
I'll go first real quick. I think one thing I've been thinking about, non-Wolves specific, because it's related to the main Wolves specific thing right now of energy and effort, is I think the two teams that play the hardest in the NBA are the 1 seed in the East and the 1 seed in the West. And I think effort, there's a premium on it right now. And it's not just like the scrappy teams that are playing at a really high effort level. Detroit and Oklahoma City, you turn on those games and those teams play really, really hard and really, really physically. I think that's an inefficiency in the league right now, and I think there's going to be a further movement towards physicality and effort around the league, in terms of how you coach it, but also in terms of how you construct your roster. And if you just look at what Oklahoma City's been doing recently, of course that stands out, but Detroit has really stood out in that way to me too this season.
Yeah, Detroit's my biggest surprise. I thought Cade, I looked at his turnovers. He led the league in turnovers last year, I believe. And I just thought, I just don't think as a playmaker, he takes away not everything he gives, but enough to make it not be ideal that he's their first playmaker. But they do play really hard in the development of Duren and the development of some of the other guys on that team. They play deep, they play hard, just like OKC. The league in general is starting to pick up people 94 feet, and they're starting to hit the offensive glass. And those are two things that have changed the NBA. And in my opinion, it has taken away the value of stars. Not that the stars still aren't incredibly valuable, but you can no longer have a team with 2 stars at the top of your roster and think you're fine. Right. You really need a deep team, and you need a team that scraps and plays together. And that's what OKC does. That's what Detroit does. That's what actually San Antonio.
Say Boston too.
Boston, definitely. Joe Mazzulla has done a fantastic job of that team this year. Phoenix, definitely a good example, because they were so terrible the other way last year. Ott is another really good coach. So yeah, all that I think is important, and I do think that the rookies that are coming into this league are really, really good. Yeah. Cooper Flagg, of course, but Coward and Knuppel from the Hornets, and there's like 5 rookies that edge come from the Sixers. There's just a half a dozen guys who are just, you didn't like Knuppel?
It's not I already made fun of Dosunmu, so I was going to skip Knipple. But yeah, he's good though. You're right. I was going to say too, to like some of the teams that I feel like if you just look, pulling up the standings here, like teams that have maybe underachieved a little bit, like Cleveland. I would say when I watched them this year compared to last season, they're similar to the Wolves. It's not the same energy and effort that the same style of play that you're used to seeing from them. I think effort's a skill in today's NBA, and teams are leaning into that.
And they missed Ty Jerome.
Sure. Yeah.
I thought Ty Jerome should have been really, I think he finished second. I probably would have voted for him 6th man of the year last year.
Yeah, he was great. I was when I was in Memphis last week, I was like, man, that guy would be good on the Timberwolves. Thank you for the question. We'll take another one. You got the mic. All right.
Appreciate it, guys. You had mentioned Julius Randle as a pretty polarizing figure here. I was hoping each of you would dive in a little deeper on that. When evaluating Chris Finch in the season he's had so far, I think his buy-in to Randle is pivotal. It's easy to know that Ant is one of the best players in the game, but Randle is polarizing. He's bought into in a way that I don't think a lot of fringe all-star players usually gets this kind of preferential treatment. So I'm wondering, Finch sticking his neck out here, do you guys acknowledge that that is what he's doing? Sticking his neck out a little bit farther than a mercurial guy, tough to, you might think the highs of Randle are really good.
Yeah.
Good in the playoffs. Efficient scorer, scored all three levels, but there's kind of built-in risk to him.
Yeah, no, I think risk is the right word to use there. Finch said Julius is the most important player thing to me a couple weeks ago, and obviously that line it sort of sticks out. But if you remember the rest of his explanation for why Julius is the Wolves' most important player is the list of things that they ask Julius to do is longer than anybody else's. That was his definition of important. It probably wouldn't be my definition of important, but through that, I get what he's saying there, right? And I think specifically in the context of this roster without a point guard, there's more that Julius is being asked to do this season, even than a year ago when Finch had really stuck his neck out for him and really given him the primacy that he does have on this team. So I say that to mean I get why Julius's list is longer now. The question is, should it be that long? And should there be different lists, based on the different versions?
Did you think of a comp with either Wolves history or current or former player in the NBA where you've been an all-NBA guy, you're a fringe all-star, but your coach who has a superstar talent seems to put him in that same category?
Yeah, I off the top of my head, I don't know. Carmelo comes to mind for me.
Yeah,
in that way, and I would need to think more about those teams, or that I wouldn't even be able to remember specifically.
Tony Kukoc.
Okay, deep cut. But there are vacancies on the roster, literally just initiation of offense. Right, Ant can do it. Yep. Who else can do that on the roster right now?
Bones Highland, Ayo.
Now Ayo is
to a certain
one.
degree.
Yeah.
Small list.
But earlier in the season, Bones Highland isn't playing at all. Ayo isn't on the team. Who's your other initiator? It's Mike Conley.
Not your blueprint.
Yeah. So I think to be fair to Finch to some extent, it's that the roster that Tim Conley gave him did make Julius Randle more important. And then Finch maybe even took it a little bit further than that. It was like, we're going to make him as important as he possibly can be. And I think that is, sorry, I'll let you jump in, Britt.
I think, sorry, Britt. I just thought that there is a level of synergy there. I think it's good for Finch too, to a certain degree.
I agree with that.
Here's what I would say. First of all, absolutely, yes, he sticks his neck out. It has happened since the introductory press conference. I think it probably happened before the trade was made. Julius Randle stepped to the mic and said, Chris Finch, the year I played under him was the most understood I have felt since I've been in the NBA. This guy gets me. I'm really looking forward to playing with him. Finch said, love to have him here. At the time, there was legitimate doubt as to who would start at power forward in Cat's absence, Nas or Julius Randle. Was never a question in Chris Finch's mind that Julius Randle was going to play. He told me in one of those long preseason interviews, it would have been insulting to not play a three-time NBA All-Star as a starter. So Chris Finch has bet on Julius Randle in a major way from the beginning. And at the beginning, the first 6 weeks to 2 months, it was terrible. It was terrible. And he had every right to pull the plug on any time and just remove him from the starting lineup, stick in Nas and get going. I wrote 3 or 4 columns about it. I just couldn't believe it. He stuck with it. Randle got hurt. Rudy got hurt. They both watched things play. Julius said, okay, I'm going to come back. I see what I can do better now. Randle became much more of a playmaker. And they go back to the Western Conference Finals. And I'm eating crow. And a lot of people who thought that Julius Randle was bad for this team were eating crow. Did they get a little bit back when Oklahoma City dominated them in the finals? Sure. But no more than anybody could see how much Mike Conley was dominated by that low man activity on defense and the 4-1 rub out against Dallas. I mean, so the point being, Chris Finch has put all his chips on Julius Randle, which is why I said the only situation I can envision where he really would have his job in jeopardy is if it becomes apparent that that strategy is a failure and he holds to it. He doesn't say, all right, I'm going to get off it. We have to get off it. If he still sticks to it, then I think he might be in danger. But the jury is out, isn't it? I mean, right now, this team is, we just got through talking about what kind of position they're in. And yes, I believe a lot of the inexcusable floor is owned by Randall's defense as well as Ant's defense in certain instances. But right now, Chris Finch has a playable hand that he is continuing to play, and he may win.
Can I add one more variable too of Nas? And I think anybody who listens to this knows I'm a big Nas guy. But we do need to acknowledge that Nas, at least in his current role, is volatile himself, right? There's a lot of like 7-2-1 games from Nas. And so the argument to that what Finch is doing with Randle is wrong would be strengthened by the idea that we have a proof of concept of Nas in that role, that he would be able to be as good as Julius or something similar in his own sort of way. And again, as somebody who skews positive on Nas, I have an optimism to that, but it also in reality, like, I don't know. You could not play offense through Nas Reed as much as you do through Julius Randle. You would need to stylistically change your style of play. Now, that's also part of my frustration with, like, I would love to have seen a period of time in the last couple of years where Nas started for 20 games, even if it was just based on injury or something like that, just to have that data point. It's kind of part of my reason for, like, wanting him to play the 3. It's just like, what would it look like if Nas was a guaranteed piece of the puzzle every single night and closed? He never closes games. So that could be, which is maybe a related side thing to this, to the Randle pushback. It is. I hear that, but we don't know. We do not know that Nas Reed would be a great starting power forward. I assume he might be, but we've never seen it before, and that at least makes it a little bit of a gray area, I in my opinion.
I appreciate the insight. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We'll take another one here. Yep. Oh yeah, there you go. What's up, man?
Do you think that the cold weather in Minnesota has more of an effect on the energy and performance of players who aren't from here than people realize?
On like players on the team or players coming to town?
Like players coming into town.
Well,
or like Timberwolves players.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. In my opinion, I would say they get the players who are on the team at some point, I think in theory, get a little bit used to it. That's their routine they live here, like they have houses here. I think it should be a value in the other teams that show up and it's freezing cold, right? And they're thrown off by that. But I don't know. Seasonal depression's a real thing, and so maybe that it impacts some of the players a little bit there too. Thank you for the question. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think there's something to it. Partly because the NBA is a traveler's league. Everybody has a mindset of where am I going to be, or I don't know where I'm going to be. And if they walk off the plane and it's 15 below, they just want to get to a hotel and they want to stay there until it's practice, and then they want to play the game. They want to get the hell out. I think that that's a different mindset. Now, on the flip side, if you're in Miami or somewhere else where there's a lot of nightlife and temptations going on, that's another thing. That's
God,
something
we're getting into this part with the 8-year-old's question.
I doubt it. I
Said
think he's
12-year-old,
much more
12-year-old.
than
I don't know. I'm sorry. Yeah. My bad.
The point being, I think that it goes both ways. It goes in terms of the fact that the cold weather and the fact that if you're playing in Minnesota, more likely than not, you're probably playing in Milwaukee or Chicago or Denver or some other place that isn't a cool place in the minds of NBA players. So, yeah, I mean, I think another thing that used to happen a lot when the Wolves were terrible is that teams could come in and think that they were going to play half-assed and still win. I think that happens less because of what the Wolves are now. But I would agree with you that the weather is a factor. It's just a factor both ways. I would rather live on the frozen tundra that people are coming into than live in LA or something and have it be something where people show out. I think if Anthony Edwards wasn't from here, he'd play better in Los Angeles than he'd play in Minnesota.
Thank you for the question. Thank you. We'll take another one here.
Would I be able to quickly address the previous question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I like that question a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's very telling of our group right now that like you hear stories of like over All-Star break when our guys are staying in town to practice together and stuff like that. Spending their off seasons in Minnesota to practice together. I think about that sort of thing a lot with the Timberwolves and being a fan of a basketball team in Minnesota. I think about that a lot, and I think it says a lot about our group right now that they have the commitment to each other to hang around in.
Big difference from previous teams. I've said this story before, but I remember talking to Jeff Teague one time, who was on the team for 3 years, if you remember. And I remember asking him one time, like, well, because he was complaining about Minnesota being cold or whatever. And I was like, well, what have you thought of like the summertime as a Minnesotan would do? And Jeff said, no, he said, never been here. I go, you've never been here for a day in the summertime? He goes, not a day. So a lot, it used to be, in all seriousness, the roster used to be super transient. Like season was over, nobody was in the facility in Minnesota the entire summer. And that changed. And actually a lot that changed that player specific was Jaden and Nas. Their first couple years in the league, they stayed here the whole summer and worked out with the staff. And then other players, the next, I remember like Nate Knight was on the team. He stayed. Jalen Clark has stayed. But that was, at least in my time, I don't know, Britt, you could go back further, but I'd assume it'd be pretty similar. Back to the Tibbs days, like nobody was here, including Tibbs, in the summertime.
I think Mayo Clinic Square has helped. The facilities used to just be awful. Target Center, they'd be practicing next to whatever the Arena Club, I think they called it, Harvard Marv's Health Club. I mean, we got free memberships the first year it was open, and we could see players in the off season if they were working out. They had no special place to be. Whereas now, I got to tell you that Mayo Clinic Square is one of the better practice facilities in the NBA. It's right across the street from a main arena, which is very rare.
Connected by a skyway.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good things about this team that have happened. The professionalization of the team is a lot better. It's just a better run organization in general, and that has happened, since the arrival of Sachin Gupta and Chris Finch and some other people, and
sure,
and Tim Connolly.
Do you have a question yourself? Yeah, go ahead.
So I that ties into my ultimate question, but I did have a prior point to make before I ask my
Fire
question.
away. Yeah.
So we have been talking about name pronunciations tonight. I spent 4 years achieving a very expensive degree in language arts, and I have not used it for a day. So this is one of my few shining moments that
This
I
is your
get to
day,
use
yeah.
my degree.
Yeah.
Johan Berenger. There's been a lot of talk about his last name, Berenger. It's not Berenger, it's Berenger. I would like to point out that his first name, if I'm not mistaken, I don't want to be speaking authoritatively on something I'm mistaken about, but I'm pretty sure it's Johan, not Johan.
Johan. Yeah.
Johan. So I would like to vocalize that.
There you go.
Broadcasting it to the Wolves fan base.
Yeah.
He's not playing for the Boston Red Sox in 2004. He's playing for the Timberwolves in 2026. He's Johan. He's Johan. There's no H in there. But my question is,
You must really dislike me.
No, dude. Britt rules. So my ultimate question is: we've been talking about Chris Finch, and I'm a fan of Chris Finch. And tying into the previous question about sort of like the more abstract, the more intangible aspects of success in the NBA, the personal sort of aspects, the sort of team chemistry aspects, the aspects that are considered corny or non-factors by a lot of NBA fans. The team chemistry of guys sticking in town to train together over breaks, that sort of thing. I notice in Chris Finch that he excels in a lot of those aspects of coaching. A lot of aspects about coaching that people who have never coached anything might not understand or recognize. Could you guys, so you guys have more exclusive access to these folks, to these human beings that a lot of us don't, could you speak a little bit to aspects that a lot of fans might not get at all about Chris Finch, things that he excels at about coaching professional athletes?
Yeah, I think that Chris Finch, his coaching method is to empower players. And that sounds like new age speak, but essentially what it boils down to is that he watches the way a team plays offensively and defensively, and then decides how he wants to structure his system. He does not come in with a set system and say, this is the way we're going to play. He had a catechism for a long time on offense. Move the ball, move without the ball, and make quick decisions. For a long time, he did not have the personnel to do that, and so he does not use that philosophy nearly as much as he did when he had Vando and Pat Bev and Cat and some of these other players around, Kyle Anderson. The point being is he tries to figure out what players are good at and then make those players better because they're doing it more often. What frustrates him and where you see him having a short fuse is when players themselves don't know what they're good at. And when players themselves don't know what they're good at, he can be very short with them because it screws him up. And so a guy like Julius Randle, who kind of knows what he needs to do, Ant kind of knows what he needs to do. Guys like Mike Conley and Kyle Anderson and Ayo, guys who kind of seem like they know exactly who they need to be. Jalen Clark in the beginning. There are guys he immediately gloms onto and likes because they know what he is doing. He knows what they want to do, and it's very much the same thing. And that's when he's a good coach. Now, in terms of locker room stuff, I've had Taurean Prince is probably the best example of this. Taurean Prince, when he came to this team, expected to get a lot more minutes than he did, and he didn't. And he came to the podium one time after he started to get some minutes, and he said, I was really disappointed and down about this. And Chris Finch really, really set me straight. He was nothing but honest. He said exactly what I needed to do. And if I did it, I would get more time. He told me exactly what I was best at, and I worked on that. And I'm in there. He said, I have nothing but respect for that guy. People who are coached by Finch, no one ever says, I don't know where he's coming from. He says one thing and then he does another to me. He's a straight shooter in that respect. The people he doesn't get along with, the Dillingham, obviously, that did not work at all. I think that is on Finch, quite frankly, not as much, but a lot of the reason why Dillingham lost his confidence and really didn't flourish here. Part of it was situational, but part of it was coaching. And so he's not perfect. He gets people wrong. But in general, there's a reason why that's a really good locker room and why this team has always been a pretty together team. Some of it is what Tim Connolly does in terms of who he brings in, and some of it is, of course, Chris Finch.
My concise answer would be not because of that. He's not intimidated by players, but he knows they run the show, which is just the reality of the situation in professional sports. Like, he's not tripping about fans on Reddit freaking out about him, like he's not. I think he's a very very comfortable in his own skin type of person. I find an interesting piece to him just as like a human being of like, you go to college and then you move overseas and you live there for 20 years. Like, there's plenty of people who do that for like a little bit, but there's I think he's not your like classic 55-year-old white dude. Like, I don't, because of like it looks like it, but he's had a different life experience than than the book might say on the cover. And I think that helps him in relation with his players. And maybe it's why the Julius example is interesting. Like, that's kind of the first time I've ever sort of seen him bend towards a player and like accommodate. But it's probably because he knows that's what Julius needs. But generally speaking, he's going to push forward with what he feels to be correct, and will do that without intimidation, which I think you might assume would be the case for a lot of coaches. But my understanding is it isn't always that way, and you can kind of be moved to adjust your coaching style accordingly. Yeah, I think he's an interesting person, and I think the players feel that too. And there's been a couple guys for sure. I won't name names. There's been a couple guys over the years who haven't liked them. You might be able to put together who that is. They got traded or, didn't last on the team very long. But for the most part, probably has a higher Q score amongst the players than I would think that the fan base might assume. And maybe your response to that would be, oh, it's because he lets him do whatever he wants. I don't think I think it's some of that. I think they like some of the freedom. But for the most part, I think players find the balance he strikes between freedom and accountability to be a welcome one as a player. I don't know enough about coaching to know if that's the right way or wrong way, but I know I've only covered the team in the time it's been Thibodeau, Saunders, and Finch. And it's certainly different than Saunders and Thibodeau. And I would say more universally approved and more universally effective than the others would be.
I guess I want to add one more thing. As people know, I've done a really long interview with Chris Finch before every season. It's happened 4 years. It works out to like 6 hours of conversation. He's never ducked a question in 6 hours of conversation. There have been times where I've said at the beginning of it, if you say something is off the record, before you say it, it will be off the record. He's done that maybe once every interview, so like 4 or 5 times. And every time it was to spare somebody else. It didn't have that as much to do with the direction of the team and where the team was going and who it was. It was far more, this will hurt that guy's feelings if I'm honest about this. And I don't want to do that to that guy. So he is, I mean, and I've talked to a lot of coaches. I've seen every one from Musselman on down, literally. So this guy takes a question and answers it. And that's so much easier said than done.
And I think representative of a communication style, that's direct to you or to us.
Right.
But I think there's tenets of that apply to his communication style with the players. We could do one more question here.
All right. So this might be like a 4-pack, but you're gonna get it. All right. First question. As you think of Tim Conley today, is he actually a top 5 GM, considering that he traded away Rob Dillingham when it was 2 first-round picks to get him, and
First in a swap?
Yeah, but that's still a big price to give up. And he traded him away for 2 second-round picks, and I forgot how to say his first name, so I'm not going to mess around with that, to get the Bulls boy. Would you say he's actually a top 5 GM, or would you say he's a top 10 GM, or where would you rate him as a GM in this league? Secondly, why can Taco Fall play in the celebrity game as an ex-NBA player? Don't you think we should have more players that start to do that?
Well, I noticed Jeremy Lin on there, and I haven't even been watching. I don't think he's alone out there. Jason Williams. So we'll move past that. With the first one, Tim, what do you think about
Taco Fall is the freak factor. They wanted somebody who's 7 feet 6 inches tall, playing with a bunch of
Let's
celebrities.
focus on the Tim Conley part of the question.
Good.
All right, you can do the Taco Fall
Be
thing.
good.
Yeah,
I'll do the Taco Fall. As for the other thing, go ahead.
I mean, it's hard to know. Like, how do you quantify how good a general manager is? I would lean on the perspective of other general managers around the league, and I think he would have a high Q score amongst them, Britt, of a top 5 or top 10. But yeah, I mean, the thing I would point to, it would be his draft track record here has not been that good. If you wanted to denigrate Tim Conley's record here, he came into a spot of a team that was already good, and so you should probably be judged on how you put an already good team together, maybe more so than developing a young one, which would decrease the value of draft picks a little bit. But I would say, I mean, he through the Rudy move that has largely been successful, the Cat trade, some of those, I think the bigger moves have been pretty successful. But obviously, yeah, the Rob thing is a miss. Like that's a miss, and with limited assets, a pretty critical one that I think for Tim's sake requires Ayo to be a real nail in that as a piece for this team for the long term. So I always feel like it's best to kind of judge those all over the fact once they're all done. But I mean, I wouldn't say he's got an A+ grade, but I think he has a fair reputation of being a top 5, top 10 GM in the league.
The conventional wisdom is the coach is the short-term guy and the GM, Pobo, whatever, is the long-term guy, right? All right. So you've got a guy who came in, had a 46-36 team he inherited, and immediately tore it apart. He tore it apart because he said he wanted to get his, at that time, 20-year-old superstar playoff experience. It took a year, but that's exactly what happened. All those picks that they gave away for Rudy, I'm sure some of them will pan out. But the Wolves
They've all panned out.
But they have not.
Jazz are doing pretty good with those.
Okay. The point being, the Timberwolves got to a place very quickly that they had never been before. Back-to-back Western Conference Finals. and you'd say, okay, they've ascended to this incredible height. They must have mortgaged everything. Look at the roster. This roster will be nearly as good with minimal management 4 or 5 years from now as it is now, more than likely. That's when Nas and Jaden and Ant will all be in their prime. And that's when Johan Berenger will be in his 4th or 5th year. That's when Ayo, if he sticks around, will be in a particular place there. Bones, all these guys, name me the guys over 30. It's Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert. That's it. And that's significant in terms of being a part of the team. But as I just got through saying, I'm pretty excited about what this team looks like when those guys are gone with minimal management. I think the Ayo trade, what did he give up? If you make a mistake and you get off your mistake in a hurry rather than doubling down on your mistake, I regard that as an intelligent person. He signed Shake Milton. He signed Bryn Forbes. Those guys were gone. He signed Monty Morris. That guy was gone. Rob Dillingham isn't going to work out here, not under this timeline, not under this coach. He is gone, along with Leonard Miller, who should have been gone a while ago, and 2 second-round picks for a guy who's a really useful piece
Four.
at a time when they need it.
Yep.
So I would argue, and when it comes to the front office, believe me, I've seen a lot of bad front offices, so I'm probably a homer on this. But Chris Finch and Tim Connolly versus whatever you want to throw, Kevin McHale and Flip Saunders is the only competition. And I got to tell you, it doesn't measure up. This is the best run the Wolves have ever been as an organization, and it isn't close.
I think that's a good place to leave it. We have Dan Herman, who is the owner of Falling Knife. I just wanted, before letting Dan talk here, just thank you on my part. We've partnered for a long time, and that's really helpful for me and my business, and I'm appreciative for that. And I'm, as I always say, proud of what we've kind of been able to build here as a community. And whether you're somebody here in the audience or somebody listening at home who's had fun at Falling Knife, especially during the playoffs and the TV trucks and everything out there, that doesn't happen without the vision of Dan and the Falling Knife crew. So yeah, let's clap for Dan. Let's clap.
No, not that. Keep it going. No. Real quick before we get into my general thoughts on some things, JC Nasri tattoo. He had brain cancer. If you don't know about that, they got removed at the end of the year. So we've been trying to figure out how we can help out with that. And on March 1st, we're going to be here. It's a Sunday. There's a 2:30 game against the Nuggets, I believe. So we're going to be here. We'll be donating to the family, but we're going to also have, a pop-up tattoo situation as we did during Wolves Fest. There's going to be, vendors here doing things, and we're going to hang out and watch the game and do all that. And we love you, JC. We love you, Tom. Obviously acknowledging all the people that we want to, acknowledge the situation. And Dane talks a little bit about this in a form of it. And I think a lot about community, right? And a lot of people talk about community, but not a lot of people really acknowledge those moments when it works. So when we started Falling Knife, when we started talking about this, one of the things that we always wanted to do was be a place that was a Timberwolves community. And then the team got good, and it's worked really fucking well. And I'm really impressed with that fact. So thank you, Ant. It wouldn't work as well if we were still cheering for the Alexi Shved Wolves, right? Yeah, right. And it started to work a little bit, and then we brought in Dane, and then it just went thermonuclear for us. So it was great. But particularly with the last 6 weeks in Minnesota, I think a lot about community in this situation, because I think that there was a thought with this federal occupation that we've had in the cities that, we as a bunch of liberals would just roll over and not deal with any of this, or the other side of it being that we would do the thing that they wanted, which was cause violence and do riots and do all of these things. And instead what we did was we threw expired dildos at cops, which is also my new punk rock band, right? Yeah, like they wanted us to bring hate, and we didn't bring hate. We brought love. We took care of each other. We're doing cool things, and it's I would take a second when you are deciding how you're going to spend your money going forward and look at the people that were there with us in these moments. And I would look at the people that were silent and try to give some compassion and some grace about why people were silent. You know, could this restaurant, were they doing it because it was dangerous for their staff for them to put a voice out there? Let's give a little grace to that. Like we are Midwesterners, we are Minnesotans, we are graceful in these things. So the community that we have here, the community that we have in Minnesota is excellent. I talk about it. My friends around the country are like, what are you guys doing? You are absolutely dominating that. And theoretically, there's going to be a drawdown. We'll see it. We'll see it when we believe it, you know, like that kind of situation. But we still take care of us, and we don't need to stop taking care of us because ICE isn't here. We can continue to take care of us, because if we don't take care of us, who the fuck is gonna? And Wolves back and fuck ICE.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Dan. And I'm glad you brought up JC too. For listeners of the podcast, we'll keep plugging that March 1st for the event for JC, because last time we were here doing a live event, JC was in the back for 6 hours doing Nasri tattoos for people, and then unfortunately, in the kind of 6 months since then, he's had a difficult time, but. In terms of community, like that dude has been about that the whole time. I mean, the tattoos cost like $20. Like I think we can all kind of put together the margins on that. He's not exactly raking it in by doing that. This was important to him. This community of Timberwolves fans in Minneapolis here and the greater Minnesota fans everywhere. He was all about that.
Yeah, well, when we lost Tom, he gave me a Nasri Tom Berg tattoo for $0.00. He was
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, you're hurting. Let's do this."
Yeah.
That's the kind of person he is. I wish he was able to tweet for the last 6 weeks, because I'm sure it would have gotten incendiary and wonderful.
No, absolutely. So March 1st, if you're listening at home, and maybe you haven't come out to Falling Knife before, do it because it's gonna be fun, and there's gonna be a game on, and you'll get to experience the community here, but also to take care of somebody who is in our greater community. Thank you again to Dan and to Falling Knife, and thank you all for coming out on a Friday night. Really means a lot to me. Thank you. We'll be back here at Falling Knife later this spring to do more of these. Hopefully in the midst of a deep playoff run. Thank you to you, Britt, for being here. And we're not going anywhere. We'll be back after the All-Star break. Until then, I'm Dane. He's Britt. Peace out. Thank you.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah. Don't let standards ever bring you down, yeah. Hope you dancing like